Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Business Boost Academy podcast series. I'm really happy today to be sat down with David Langley from Optics. David is an operations, no, I had him as an operations consultant, but in the chat beforehand, I've realized that I was wrong. He's not an operations consultant, but I'll let him explain as to that why. So, hi, David. How are you doing this morning? You good?
Yeah, very well. Thank you very much. How about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Thank you very much. Looking forward to sort of cracking on and finding out a little bit more about what you do and how you go about the things that you do. So, give us a bit of background about yourself, David. How did you end up in operations?
Yeah, for sure. So I am from Northampton and grew up on a council estate in the east side of Northampton, which if anybody knows it, is not a very nice place to grow up. But still, my mum did a very good job with it. But the thing was I never really had anybody around me who was in business, other than the people who weren't supposed to be doing the business they were doing in that area. But yeah, so we never had anyone in our family who did business. And so the path was you go to school, you go and get a job, and no one ever went to uni as well. So that was kind of the path. People who owned businesses and were rich and driving nice cars, they were the like we weren't supposed to like them because we came from nothing kind of thing, you know. So it's a scarcity mindset from the outset, which was a shame. But for some reason, I always knew that I was going to go and do something a little bit different. Didn't want to be having that same kind of lifestyle, seeing others around me having that same lifestyle. So from going to secondary school, I was determined to go into the best one in Northampton. And I was like, that's where I need to be able to go to uni, to be able to get at that point thinking a really good job. And so that's what I did. Went to the good school, went to university, and then came out and then saw that jobs were not as easy to get if you just got a degree. It's like, well, good for you. So got a job which I enjoyed, and it was like a salesy kind of job. And anyone who knows me knows that I'm not the typical salesperson who's going to be on calls trying to sell stuff. But they kind of quickly realized I was probably the most organized person in the room in the business. And so they were like, "Oh, you could be the project manager. You can just manage all these projects that we've got going on, manage us internally with the projects as well." And I was like, "I've never done this," and I was probably 22-ish. And now I was like, "Fine, I can do that." Was really successful with that. And then they were like, "Oh, well, another step between there and doing other things is operations manager." And I was like, "Okay, I don't really know what that means, but I can do it. I can make sure things are working and make sure things are working in a better way than when we found them before." So became ops manager. And anybody again who has ever worked with an ops manager or is one knows that is such a huge holistic title. So all of a sudden, everything is thrown at you. And this business was maybe like 30 people. And I was working on how do you make finance better? How do we invoice people better? How do you make the tech team run more efficiently? How do we put sprints into the business? And it was like a super charged learning experience of how business worked from a 360 point of view because you just are doing everything all the time. And so that kind of became my bag in terms of ops because I felt good being able to not be bored in one place. I was always working with different people. I somehow gained people's trust real quick, so they liked working with me and they knew that if I was given a project, it would be delivered. And I always delivered to the people, not the business, and that always worked better. So I kind of sat with the people and said, okay, what do you want out of this, whatever we're doing? How do you want it to work for you rather than for the business? Because if we do it for the business and you don't like it, you're not going to do it. So what's the point? And so yeah, I kept just following that ops kind of journey in a couple of different companies, always startups, and got to a point where I was like, okay, I could be an ops consultant now. Back to your point at the start of this, and became an ops consultant with a few different companies. And it was around 2023, or end of 2023, beginning of 2024 last year. And I was thinking to myself, I'm preaching about efficiency, optimization, scaling your business, and helping people do it. But I'm not actually practicing that because I'm now contracting 5 days a week, 6 days a week usually, and I've got nowhere to go. Like my capacity is done. So why am I not practicing what I preach? And so coming back to your point, I wanted to start an operations agency. And as we were talking about before, it's a little bit different than being a consultant because I can lean on skills that that other people have as well. So, for example, within our agency, we have at the moment 4 people who are regularly working with us. One is the partner in the business, so he's an old boss of mine, a COO, and he's just got so many different skill sets to me, even though it's exactly the same discipline. He has specialized in HR, he's specialized in OKRs, and he's specialized in all different things that I've not done before as well. So we can complement each other really well. We have a couple of project managers as well, and so they have worked in tech, they've worked in banking, they've worked in gambling, all different kind of different industries. And then we've got a QA engineer who helps us with tech projects, and so we can lean on him as well to be able to make sure whatever we deliver is sound. We have contacts who we can outsource tech things to, etc. So as you made a good point about marketing agencies before, they have different skill sets, they can take on different work, and it's exactly the same with us. We can take on different things, and it's still leaning to my kind of want and need not to be bored, because we can do so many different things and help so many different businesses of different sizes. It's always a refreshing kind of thing to be running an operations agency.
Yeah, it's a I think the parallels between what you have described optics looks like and how a marketing agency looks like are very, very similar. And I totally get why you use the term agency. Because obviously with a marketing agency, you've got somebody who's there might be a web specialist in there, there might be a branding specialist in there, there might be an SEO specialist in there, there might be a PPC specialist in there. So you've got all these various different marketing disciplines, and obviously you've got that within your agency that you're operating as well. And a, um, a different spin on how to do it. And I think the other thing that you've said is really, really crucial is you as a one person business, as a consultant, when you were doing the consultancy, you're selling your time. However, you can't scale that because it's people are buying you, they're buying your time, they're buying who you are. You have to, what you've done is fantastic, because what you've done is you've sort of shifted it around, and rather people buying your time, they're now buying your agency, they're buying your agency's time, which is so you're selling a product. So how does it work? So I'm running a business. I know that things aren't running as efficiently as they could be, or I might even believe that my business is running efficiently, but I've just got some niggles going on in my head. What's the process? How do you operate?
Yeah, it's good point with that saying that you know that your business is running. And it's the first step on this kind of journey is making people realize that there are things that could be improved. And so you know that there's little niggles going on in place at the back of your mind in your business. Things aren't as optimal as possible, but the first step for us is making sure that people know that we exist and we can help them with that. Like things can be super niche to your business, but there's often a root cause in terms of like this is why this super niche thing is happening within your business, and we can identify that. So that, as you said about the journey, so we always do a 30-minute exploratory call with people. So we come onto a call and say, this is what we do, and this is how we can get you thinking. And the next step, the first step after that, if they like what we're saying, is to do a 1 hour free audit on their business. And so what we ask before that when they're booking the call is tell us your biggest bottleneck. And if they don't know it, that's fine, we can discover it. But if they know the biggest bottleneck in their business, we can start from there and go, okay, that's it. But how do we zoom out and go, where is this bottleneck coming from? It's like if a doctor was to come and diagnose you with some kind of pain, it's like, okay, there's probably a different, like right before giving you drugs for that to fix that, antibiotics, there's probably a root cause for this. Where's it coming from? And so we do exactly the same thing, try and diagnose where that one problem is coming from. And if it doesn't happen to be anything else, we will go in and fix that, but it could be something bigger. So within that free 1 hour audit, we look at the whole business and we go, okay, there's your bottleneck. Where's it coming from? It's this, and this is how we would say you can fix that. And so we're not pushy on the sales. Like I said before, I'm not a salesperson. So we say, this is how you can fix it. We can do it, or you can go away and do it yourself, and we can support you in any different kind of way. But if they want us to do it, we always start with a program called Fix and Flow, and it's high impact, high value, and it is exactly what it says. It's a fix, and then lets your business flow. Um, doesn't necessarily have to be a fix. It can be if you're stuck on a certain revenue like plateau and you just want to get to that next level. It's that kind of, okay, how do we take you from here to here in terms of getting up another level of your business? And then that could just be it's exactly the same process. We have a look at it and go, okay, to get you up to the next level, we just need to optimize these things rather than hiring 10 more people, optimize these things and we go with it. So fix and flow, 30 days usually, and we'll do a 2 hour audit. We'll draw the whole business out, processes from top to tail, sales process, onboarding process, delivery. How do you ask for feedback at the end? And then how do you kind of try and upsell them, or how do you keep them as a retainer client, etc. So that whole process of going from sale to the finish of it. We'll then look at what the solution is for that bottleneck. So it can be, like, for example, we're doing one now, which is installing a CRM, and that doesn't have to be a bespoke CRM. It's just we'll find the right tool for what we've explored and then implement that into the business. And it could be a set of 3 tools, which we would link together. And then we've got a really nice working optimal flow of all of these tools talking to each other. Or it could be something bespoke if we have to go and find something bespoke as well. But we'll put that in place and then we'll document everything. So it doesn't have to be tools. It could just be a process change and we'll document that process change. It could be making sure that you are just doing regular process changes, or it could be helping a founder get out of their own way using operations. And so like, again, we were talking about before this is how can we make sure that someone's not doing the same thing that they've always done in their business, changing that cycle, and how we can make sure that a founder is actually working on the business rather than in it, because that's a key to what we try and do. We make sure that the founder is not firefighting every day, they're not doing the same tasks every day, because you're not moving forward, you're just creating more problems. If you can work on the business, zoom out and be more strategic, you're doing what you love, for hopefully, if you've started the business in the first place, and you're moving it forward to where you want it to be. And so it's that's the key that we always try and relate everything back to.
Yeah, when I start working with people, so obviously my sort of, I suppose, my typical client is somebody who's fairly new in business or fairly young in business in that respect, and they're people who are, they might have been working for a business or in jobs for a long period of time. They've got fed up with working for people and they want to give it a go themselves. So they set themselves up in business. They wake up on a Monday morning and they think, right, I need some sales. So they'll go out and they'll get some sales in. And then what they'll do is once they've got the sales in, they'll deliver on those sales. But while they've delivered on the sales, they're not bringing more sales in. So, and then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, that's fallen off the cliff because the sales pipeline is empty, and they have to fill that up again, and then they have to go again, and they're in this perpetual cycle that they just can't get out of,
Mm.
and they have no idea how to potentially do that. So what's quite fascinating about what you're saying, the parallels between what you do and what I do are really, really close. Um, I think I said to you before, it's like two sides of the same coin almost, really. You're coming at it from a sort of a operations and processes perspective. I'm coming at it from a business skills perspective, and the two of us can sort of probably dovetail quite well together. So when you're sat down with a business owner, are people reticent to change? Do they sit there? You mentioned a minute ago, that feeling, well, I've always done it that way. Do you,
Mm.
do, is that an obstacle that you have to overcome? And if you do, how do you overcome that?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, if they're coming to me directly, they will be open-minded to the fact that they want to improve their business. And so, speaking to someone like me, they know that they have to do some sort of change at some point. But in that scenario, we kind of try and make it um as exciting as ops can be. Obviously, like one of the things we always say is making ops sexy. It's not the most sexy subject for people. People want to talk about sales, marketing, let's go and get more money, but no one wants to talk about the unsexy elephant in the room, which is operations and the system and the foundation of your business, of what it's built on. So we always try and just make it as exciting as we can in terms of this is going to really facilitate your growth and scale of your business, and therefore people kind of get past that barrier. Another client of mine, the CTO is actually our kind of go to is
Okay.
point of contact, because he's the one that wants the change. The rest of the business want change, but they're kind of a little bit more resistant to it. And so you kind of have to show them through what you want to put in place, that it can actually work. So for example, we're putting in HubSpot for them at the minute because they use an Excel sheet to do all of their sales and then write down when they've got a call with someone, what email said, etc. And it's just super inefficient because who has the latest version of that spreadsheet? Oh, it was him. Oh, we deleted it by accident. Whoops. So it's just like super inefficient. So we're putting in HubSpot, but they all don't want to use it because they're like, oh, we're not going to use that. Like we're not going to sit there and enter details in. No one's going to like make sure that all the data is correct. And I'm just telling them and showing them is okay. I can link this to your email, and then it will pull in your email automatically, and then it will tell you what the next actions are automatically, and it will tell you when you should contact that person again and what to say, and you don't have to do anything. And so the process we're going through is I've set up a demo, I've set up fake dummy data, and I'm like, this is what's going to happen, and this is how it flows through. And we can do that with anybody, any kind of team, any client. We just show them how it's going to work, and then there's the buy-in. They go, oh, actually, yeah, that's going to work. That's going to help me out. And then they're bought in, and then we can continue to kind of push it as far as we can.
It's that whole managing change, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was working with a client a few years ago who's a change management specialist, and she had a complete roadmap she used to go through with people when she was going through, and it usually started with people sat there in a very negative body language. You know, their arms were folded, their face frowning, and everything else. Oh, I'm not going to change. I've always done it like that. So it's yeah, it is that whole you. If you don't change, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
It's that whole it's a great expression. If you don't change it, nothing will change in the future, and I think that's so crucial. When you're working with people, so obviously the MD brings you in, or the CTO brings you in, or whatever, and you're working with people, you obviously have to I would assume you would have to sort of get the rest of the company on board. um we talked earlier on about the business owner's vision and how where they want to get to and everything else. Do you find that when you're working with a company, it's very much the business owner's vision, or are they actually doing the vision for the business as a whole, and the company are on board with that? And if they are, do you find that those are businesses that are better to work with when they've got a shared vision and a shared goal, and where they're actually going, direction where they're actually going?
Yeah, in a nutshell, yes, it's always better when everybody is on the same kind of bus and they're going in the same direction, right? Um, as you said there, I always focus on the vision and mission of the business, and so whether that's one person or whether that's the whole business. But as I said before, processes are always done best, systems are always built best when they're focused on the people who are actually going to be using them and running them. And so the vision and mission is great, and you kind of focus on that, and that's your kind of North Star. But you have to understand what the people actually like doing. So an example is she's a friend, but she also runs her own business called Art Minds, which is a charity helping people through creating art. And she wants to grow the business, but she doesn't want to like run it. Like she doesn't want to go out and do sales calls and like do all that kind of stuff. She doesn't want to do that. So it's kind of the point of what we were trying to do with her is like say, what's the vision? I want to grow it to this much. What's the mission? This is the nice fuzzy vision we've got. And I said to them, okay, what do you like doing? And we're just going to make sure that you continue doing that, but build processes around you, which are going to do everything else to help get to the vision. And so it's really like with one person it's easier because you can just get them and they're like, yeah, that makes sense, that's what I want to do. But with the people, with different people in terms of a business, they all have their own interests and dislikes, and they want to do a good job, but maybe they hate doing the same mundane tasks. So it's like, okay, let's remove that, and you're going to add more value by doing the stuff that you like to do, the stuff that you were hired to do, and the stuff that lights you up, puts you in flow as well. And so we always, to answer your question, go to the people in the business and base a system around them. And then that's just a way better method of getting to the vision and mission of a business itself. And the MDs can always see that as well because they've hired these people for a reason. Like it's not just that they've pulled them off on the street. If it's a small business, they are really invested in these people because they don't have massive budgets to go and hire people. And so they want them to excel and do what they like doing and help them grow, you'd hope. And so they love seeing that a system is based around those people, facilitating them doing better. So yeah, always gets to their vision and mission.
Yeah, it's again with you talking, and as you were talking, I was sitting there thinking, what's really fascinating about the way that you operate is it's such a bespoke service that you provide.
Mm,
Um, I'm a big believer that the cookie cutter approach doesn't work.
mm,
In my world, there's a lot of people that have a very much a cookie cutter approach to helping people solve their business problems. And actually, like I say to everybody, you could have a business one side of the road that sells red 2010 VW Golfs. You could
mm.
have a business the other side of the road that sells red business 2010 VW Golfs. They sell exactly the same. They have exactly the same turnover. They have exactly the same number of staff working for them, but they all be completely different. And because
Yeah.
they operate in different ways, because the individuals that are working within those businesses are very, very different. So a cookie cutter approach doesn't work. And it's interesting to hear you say it's about it's so much about the company. It's so much about the company and the people that are involved in the company, and it's what they want. And it's about, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? When you're doing that kind of change element to it as well, to get those people on board and to get them on board as best you possibly can, what you have to do is you have to make sure that they are um, it's geared to suit their needs and their wants and everything else. So no, I think I think that's brilliant. So you did a webinar yesterday, and how did that go? What was that about?
Very good. It was all about 10 ops problems that kill business growth, and then we gave solutions and we gave quick wins as well. So there's not the definitive list of everything that's going to ever kill a business growth at all, but it was just 10 that I've seen that maybe annoy me the most, or I just wanted to give people the answers to so they can stop doing it. But it was also around like giving an approach of ops that's a little bit different perhaps. So I don't think it's a unique approach, but it's just my approach to um holding people's hand through it. And so it's like, here's your big scary problem that you have to deal with every day, but here's just a little fix, and here's how you can start to do it today. Like, here's how you can start to solve that big problem today. And so we went through things like how to create an SOP, and you've got like all of these amazing AI tools which can do it in a second. You can just record a video, and then you just ask ChatGPT to write you out a transcript in the form of an SOP, sorry, and you've got it, and that's your SOP, and you're starting to build that. And it kind of the point of it is to be able to scale is that you can't have everything in your head. So if you wanted to go and hire someone tomorrow, but you do all these SOPs, you've got to sit with them for weeks and say, this is how I do this is how I do that. But spend an afternoon just documenting that. And then you can give it to 10 new employees at some point, and they all know how to do it because they've just sat and learnt it as well. And things like KPI is always something that people forget to do, but it's the old mantra of you can't manage anything you don't measure. So you need to
I
start.
bang on about KPIs all the time, mate. Honestly, I'm like a bad record with KPIs. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
But yeah, and things I think like you picked up on a couple of things before from watching it is like internal communication has to be bang on, or else no one's going to speak to people. They'll just be siloed, and it's not good. You need to have one place where it's all structured to be able to speak to people. One of my favorite ones is how to ask for feedback and how to make sure that you ask your clients for feedback. People don't do it. Like, I ask someone all the time, do you ask your clients for feedback? They're like, oh no. And it's like, do you ask your employees for feedback? Because they're the ones doing it every single day. Oh no, of course not. So you got to give license to your clients to give you feedback straight away and say, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? But also your employees just to say, this could be better. This could be 1% better, and that's going to make a huge difference to everything we do. But I always, with the client feedback, I always try and give them life cycle goals. And so it's like, okay, within 2 weeks of your client using your platform or using your service, what should you ask them? Like, what's their experience up to this point? And then ask them again in 2 months, ask them in 3 months, and make sure that you're continuing to understand the good stuff, keep doing that, repeat that, but understand the stuff that you might not be doing as well. And then you can kind of go back and fix that. So the next cohort of your new clients coming through, when they get to that 2 month point, you fix the problems that the previous ones had. So it's that kind of rolling continuous improvement that you're always doing as well. And then we've already alluded to it, but one of my favorites is when you go into somewhere and you hear, "Oh, I've always done it this way," and you just put your head in your hands and you bang the table profusely, and you just try and help them out as best as you can.
When I sort of joined my family business out of university. We're talking the mid 90s now. So, I think it was at a time when electricity had just been piped around the country, possibly. But anyway, that's how long ago it feels. But at the time, IT systems were very, very fledgling in there.
Mm.
People were beginning to have IT systems in the office and everything else. But we were a very, very paper-based business. And it just always operated that way. And, because we've always done it this way, it's always worked. And
Yeah.
the typical objection was, well, what happens if we have a power cut? Or what happens if the computer system fails? Or what happens if the computer breaks down? We're not going to be able to operate. So we
Yeah.
need to have it all back up and everything else. And it was a continual banging your head against a brick wall trying to make these sorts of things, make these kind of changes happen. And it didn't happen because that was kind of the way that the business was always run. Having somebody having if we'd have had you, for example, come in and say, "Oh, actually, you can do this more efficiently and that more efficiently," then brilliant. I love what you said about AI and using AI, because people just have this perception that AI is just this tool that you use. Most people are using it for marketing purposes, for example.
Yeah.
But you're using it to create standard operating procedures for people.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that concept. I know somebody who's helping them write code with it, for example, as well, and how it can really really help in that respect. So, are there other ways that you're using AI in terms of when you're going in to see a client, and how you're making things happen more efficiently for them, and showing them how to use AI for their own benefit as well?
Yeah, 100%. So we spoke about CRM systems earlier, and
Yeah.
there's something I've been using recently called Replit. And it's basically you give it your issue or your kind of idea of how you might want to solve it, and then it'll build you a prototype platform and say, this is what I think you need. And then you can go into it and say, okay, I like that, but can you present this in a different way? And then you kind of got a prototype. So it's kind of for us in terms of how we might build a system or build a tool that someone might want to use, is that really clever intuitive scoping, because when you're scoping something, you can talk about it, whiteboard it, put it onto like a mind map or something. But if you can actually see it and then ask AI, just change that, cool, that works better. You're scoping so much more quickly, and you can actually see it, and you're kind of getting past that validation as well, because you can see it working, rather than getting to a point where you've built an MVP and then you go, oh, it doesn't actually work for what we wanted to do. Let's go back to the scope. It just cuts all of that out. You've got an MVP there already, and you can validate your ideas, or you can validate a solution super quick. So yeah, that's kind of one of the things we do. Standard operating procedures is a great one, and there's also like you can ask something to give you a process. So you can ask an AI tool, just say, hey, I need a process to get from A to B. Can you write that for me? These are the things that are the variables. These are the decisions we'd have to make. What is it? I
Mhm.
don't do that yet, just because I think it's like a bit of a cheat for what we're actually trying to do. We want to focus on the people again. But if you really want a baseline, and we do use it for a baseline, if we're not familiar with what the process is, or if there's no process, use it as that baseline and go, okay, this is what we think it might be. How do we change that to fit you and your organization? So yeah, it's fascinating what we can start to do, and there's probably a whole arena that we don't even explore. I've spoken to a lot of AI automation specialists who will probably use at some point to be able to help us link one thing to the next, and then speak to the other thing, tools, etc. And it's incredible what people can start to plug in and do.
Yeah, I think AI is just it's the way it's advanced in such a short space of time. It's quite scary. I obviously I'm of a generation where I remember the first Terminator movie coming out, actually. Not just the first Terminator movie being shown on TV 100 times, but it's that whole principle of artificial intelligence and where it can go. And I think it's I've been watching with keen interest in how people are using it, and um it, why I didn't expect you to be using it, I don't know. It's my own naivety in what you do, but what you've articulated is just makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
So
it's not
in terms
a
of,
replacement, I don't think. Sorry to cut you off there. It's not
sorry,
it's
what say?
it's not a replacement in terms of what
No,
we
it's a
do.
tool. It's an
It's a
abs.
Yeah, it's a facilitator for me,
Yeah,
which is to
absolutely.
still to think laterally and make sure that you're still delivering solutions, but you can help speed up those solutions or make them better.
Yeah, and I think that that's the thing that people don't get with it. So a lot of people are using AI at the moment, and they if AI spits something out, they just go bosh, and then they use exactly what's spat out of them. Actually, what you've got to do is you've got to use what's given to you as a, like you rightly pointed out earlier, as a baseline for starting on what you're currently doing. And once you kind of use that, you can just see the power of how you can use it, and it can give you ideas and it can give you input. And particularly if it's not an area that you're a specialist in, just for general people that are out there, if you've got something that you're doing, you can use that AI as a prompter to give you an idea and guidance on maybe how, if you try and do it this way, and it gives you that vision of how to move things forwards. And I think this is the thing, people just use it as they're using it as for gospel. One of the things I think is quite dangerous about it, and I was having a conversation with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, and he's a commercial director and working in a business, and his boss was asking him to use AI in such a way that he was going to be putting company sensitive information on there.
Hmm.
And I turned around to him and said, "You don't want to be doing that." And he goes, "No, I know I don't want to be doing that because AI is an open platform. It's an open source platform. So as
Yeah.
a result of that, you put company sensitive information on there, then it's going to come back." And he actually had that conversation with his boss. His boss goes, "Oh, I never realized.
Mm.
Thanks for pointing that out." But this is the problem. A lot of people don't understand it, to respect it enough, and they're not necessarily using it correctly. And I think that's where the danger can potentially come in. But
Mm.
let's face it, it's not going anywhere. And it's a brilliant, brilliant tool to be using. So in
Mm.
terms of uh, optics, where are you going? What's your vision for your business, and what sort of clients are you looking for, and where do you see yourself in a few years' time?
Yeah, good question. We should practice what we preach about vision and mission.
Yeah. Sorry to put you on the spot there, David.
No, it's all good, good. But no, the mission really, to me, and I think we resonate on this as well, Steve, is that I just want to help as many businesses as possible. So last October, I set a target of 100, and I think we're probably at around 30-ish. I should count it, but we're on the right track. So to help 100 businesses in that year, and then I'm just going to continue to scale that in terms of how we can scale as an agency and the tools we use to be able to scale and the offers we have. Um, and my kind of driving value is always to deliver value. I always just want to help deliver value to whoever we engage with, whether that's on a free 30-minute call or the free 1 hour audit. I always, like I was saying about feedback, just ask, how was that? Did you get value from that? And that's kind of like one of my guiding principles, just to deliver the value, because if you don't, I'm kind of wasting my time and that other person's time. So, um, in terms of where we're going, again, practice what I preach. I want to scale and grow the business, and scale and grow how we can deliver operational solutions to people, how we can be an outsourced operations partner for people, and how we can guide them through the process of growing and scaling their own business. And so that will entail having more um, operations experts with us, more project managers with us, and more clients, and having clients on a retainer basis where we can help them on an ongoing journey of their business. And I'm not averse to them wanting to kind of, the term I use is graduate away from us. Like if they turn around to me in a year's time and said, "Hey, we loved what you've done, and now we're going to go and hire an ops director," that's success because they've realized the power of operations. We've put them in a place where they're able to go and say, "Okay, now we have revenue and budget to hire someone specifically doing this on a day-to-day basis for us all the time." And that business is going to continue to grow and scale. So we've picked it up and left it in a better place. And so that's music to our ears, and we can kind of make sure that we set the KPIs, set the roles and responsibilities for that ops director coming in, and that's kind of like where I'd love to see businesses come and go through us, and then just continue to grow. My long-term vision is we'll have kind of like a product where people can come to us and like so the example I always say is like ClearScore for business ops. You plug in what you do, plug in your LinkedIn for the business, and you say, this is what we've got, this is how many people, this is the revenue, these are my bottlenecks, and then it gives you a task list and says, okay, to get to that next point, you got to do these things in terms of your ops. The next point, do these things. You come back, you update it, you get a better score. And that kind of thing will make sure that we can help more businesses in the future as well. So it's something in the works. But I think it also will help a lot of businesses with things like investment. And so we want to have a look at how we can help businesses really think about ops as their cornerstone when they're going for investment, because we don't want people to get a load of investment, series A, B, whatever, and then just not use it in the most efficient way to be able to scale their business as best as they can.
Yeah.
So they're the kind of things that we want to look at doing, and then potentially work with bigger businesses as well. So, for example, one of my biggest clients at the minute is a 50-person business, and I move around their business, optimizing different sections of it and how they speak to each other. And so the business is becoming more aligned. There's more visibility across the whole business because we're doing these things in isolation, but making sure those silos are also broken down at the same time. So they're in one kind of bubble of improvement, really. So yeah, just
Yeah.
continue to do that.
It's really good to chat to you, David. And I know we're going to be working more together in the future. You know, from my perspective, listening to you talk about certain things, I'm one of these people that's sort of drawing parallels to things that I'm working on and everything else. And there's a lot of the stuff that I've done with clients up to now really crosses over with some of the stuff that you're talking about, but obviously you do it from a specialist perspective, whereas I'm doing it from I suppose from a business perspective more than actually as an operations specialist. But no, honestly, David, that's been a really brilliant chat. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And you know, if you want to check out David's website, it's optics, which is optics.global. And that's his website, and you can get hold of him on LinkedIn. And what I'll do after this sort of presentation or this podcast, I'll put a little screen up there like I always do, which will have David's contact details on there so you can get hold of him if you need to. But David, thank you very much for your time this morning. I thoroughly appreciate it. And, you know, have a fantastic rest of the day.
Thanks so much. And yeah, likewise, really enjoyed the chat. So thanks so much, Steve.
No worries. You take care.